same. ADHD, we're running wild. Focus, fading, chaotic child. Turn the volume up, take a ride. In this crazy storm, I can't hide.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you please welcome the host of ADHP, Doug and Todd.
All right.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Attention Deficit Hyperactive Politics Podcast. I'm Doug. That's Todd.
Yep.
How you doing, Todd?
I am what I am. So.
We're better late than never this week. Recording here on a Tuesday instead of the usual Sunday. Of course, we normally like to have the episode up by midnight this morning, so we're a little late. But hey, better late than never, right?
Yeah. You know.
So after a week off, I thought we would take a look back on some of our previous main topics and see if our takes were on track. The first thing I'm looking at today is Trump's tariffs. So right after our last real show, Trump caved on the China tariffs. We spoke about Molson Hart's analysis on what would happen if Trump waited until May 31st to roll back tariffs, but he couldn't even make it to May 12th. It was announced that the 145% tariffs would be rolled back for 90 days starting on May 14th, leaving the overall tariff rate on China at about 30%. So it's almost as if Trump listened to us, or at least every single economist and market maker in the world.
Yeah, I mean, or he listened to someone who's like, this is not really working out the way we want it. So maybe we should, kind of step back from that.
Well, so much of what Trump does is he wants the show. He wants to tick a button, tick a bullet point, say he did something, and then it'll go away so that he can avoid the actual consequences of doing the thing he promised his rabid followers.
Yeah, he's trying to be like Vince. He's trying to be like Vince McMahon. So yeah,
100%. I mean, everything he does is professional wrestling. Yeah. It's all professional wrestling. And so, is the crisis averted? Well, not exactly. America's gross domestic product, the broadest measure of the U.S. economy, showed its first quarterly contraction since early 2022, which is when we were still coming out of the pandemic, as importers raced to bring in goods before punishing tariff rates kicked in. So we already created our own COVID-style crisis just to ultimately tick tariffs up a modest amount to 30%. It's not going to be enough to bring back manufacturing. It's not going to be enough to change the way we do business. It is enough to completely fuck people over.
Yeah.
And according to NPR, the 145% tariff rate, it already did its damage. Some companies got really unlucky, like those whose goods arrived at U.S. ports just before the pause. So as an example that NPR provides, if a medium-sized company had $1 million worth of goods imported, they had to pay an extra $1.5 million on top of that just for a tariff. That's not sustainable. That's going to have killed some companies. I've already seen, and you've probably seen them too, Todd, people posted on their memes and whatever saying that they had to close up shop because of the tariff. It's just a lot of these small to medium businesses, they live basically shipment to shipment.
My favorite though is Kid Rock shutting down his restaurant because he doesn't want ICE coming and taking his employees.
Yeah, so that's going to be good for them, is to just not have a job. But yeah, a lot of these companies, they can't survive just even a few weeks of this. Yeah. So it's already had its impact. And then what I want to recommend to everybody, since we have kind of an abbreviated show here today, I do want to recommend to anybody listening to listen to the Planet Money from NPR. The show is called Planet Money. It's the May 16th edition. And what you'll hear from there is what a month of 145% tariffs looked like and felt like for 3 people in the global economy whose lives have been affected and still will be. So we'll include that link in the show description. But that's Planet Money from NPR from May 16th. So definitely listen to that if you're at all interested in what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
In addition to the above, for the week of May 5th to May 9th, international imports slowed significantly, 30% lower compared to the previous week. International imports are also down almost 23% compared to our weekly average for the year. And the week of 5/9 also reflected the first void of one of the largest service calls that has reduced schedule from a weekly to biweekly basis. So what this means is vessels now calling our gateway had left China or other Asian ports 2 to 4 weeks ago when tariffs were at their highest. We expect this downward trend to continue for the next few weeks as vessels that were loaded and departed after the April 9th announcements reach the NWSA. So there are multiple important beneficial cargo owners, aka BCOs, that have confirmed that since the U.S.-China agreement was announced just this last week, bookings from China have surged significantly. So they are trying to pick back up. Feedback indicates that basically importers are going to try and load everything into this 90-day window for the pause on tariffs. So we may see a spike that kind of appears normal because basically you have all these businesses suffering from it, but now everybody that didn't go out of business from this is jamming their orders in this 90-day window, which will make this 90-day window kind of average out to look more normal. And so we'll see full shipping schedules, but what's going to happen after this 90-day pause, nobody knows. Nobody knows what to plan for. So ultimately, Trump caved, but he still did a buttload of damage.
Yeah.
And we're going to see what happens after this 90 days. Another past topic that we've covered here is, of course, RFK Jr. And so we're asking the question this week, has the no good, very bad health secretary corrected course as suddenly as Trump did? Well, the same day that the 90-day pause on China tariffs was announced, it was reported that RFK Jr. had been swimming head deep in the contaminated Rock Creek over Mother's Day weekend.
He submerged underwater, 100%.
Yeah, and so you wonder where the brainworms come from, huh?
Yeah.
So Washington, D.C. has banned swimming in Rock Creek, which is the Rock Creek, the Potomac River, and other nearby waters in that area since 1971. This is nothing new. It's been this way since 1971 as a result of contamination. In fact, as recently as 2022, a microbial source tracking report published by the D.C. government said that ambient water monitoring for Rock Creek showed, quote, chronic elevated levels of E. coli. And if anyone has ever had Jack in the Box or Sizzler or other undercooked meats knows how deadly E. coli can be, especially for kids.
Yeah.
And am I right that the picture showed his grandchildren in the creek with him?
There's video of them splashing around in that creek.
And an adult can a lot of times defeat E. coli, but it's very fatal to children. And so we had fecal coliform bacteria stemming from sewage is also deposited into Rock Creek.
Yeah. God.
And that's from a 2002 report from DC Water and Sewer Authority. So it's not like they did a report in 1971, they ruled the creek off limits, and then we haven't checked on it. Like, every 20 to 30 years we get an update, and yeah, it's still full of shit. Speaking of full of shit, though, apparently Kennedy is willing to admit that he is, in fact, full of shit. Because he was speaking to Congress this past week, and he admitted, I don't think people should be taking medical advice, from me. No kidding. Maybe he listened to us too then. Maybe he's finally admitting he is a no good, very bad health secretary. And maybe if we shouldn't be listening to the health secretary for advice, maybe he should just go ahead and resign.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Lastly, looking back on past episodes, of course, my favorite issue, the one that I really hope is being taken to heart by anybody who happens to be listening, is universal or guaranteed basic income. Is that still looking promising? Because I'm hoping if we can accomplish one thing here, I hope we're able to convince you, the listener, that a UBI is moral, it's necessary for a middle class in the age of AI and automation, and it just makes good economic sense. And now we have another study to discuss. So previously we discussed this this My Basic Income study from Germany, and just to kind of summarize what was involved in that, we had Jürgen Schupp, who was the scientific lead from DIW Berlin. We had Miriam Witz, the project lead at Mein Grundeinkommen, which is my basic income or my guaranteed income in German. And this is a summary of their previous findings. Key findings challenge critics. The most significant finding contradicts the welfare dependency argument often used against UBI. Recipients didn't withdraw from the labor market or significantly reduce their working hours. 2. Mental health benefits equivalent to therapy. Perhaps the most striking were the substantial improvements in well-being. The study documented improvements in mental health by 0.347 standard deviations, purpose in life by 0.25 standard deviations, and life satisfaction by a whopping 0.417 standard deviations. Lastly, it also demonstrated autonomy or promoted autonomy and pro-social effects. The study revealed a pattern of increased social connection and autonomy among recipients. Participants spent more time with friends while maintaining their work hours and reported greater control over their lives. If you listen to that episode, you might remember how people because there was a control group that didn't receive the funding, and there was a test group that did receive the funding. The biggest difference between the two groups is the test group, people actually changed jobs. They were willing to take more control over their life. They were willing to say, hey, I can go a week without a job because I can go a week or a month without a job while I find a better fit for myself, because they have this guaranteed income. They didn't have to stay a slave to a place that they weren't happy at. And that, of course, arcs itself into the mental health benefits and all of that. So what's next? The future of UBI research in Germany. So this research team that just had these results, they are already planning their next steps. On May 1st, so just almost 3 weeks ago, they launched a new 500,000 euro basic income lottery, which will also be researched. So we'll definitely, I mean, the results of this are going to be years down the line, but we'll definitely be following it along. So they're commissioning a potential analysis of what UBI would mean macroeconomically for society in light of our study's findings, without false assumptions like decreased work activity. They add, while the basic income isn't currently on the political agenda, Schupp believes that for the urgently needed restructuring of social systems, all reform options must be considered, including universal basic income. And this is what I was talking about previously, how it's not just a moral thing, but it's necessary in the age of AI and automation. And then Witz, who didn't begin as a UBI advocate, says the experience changed her perspective. She says, I've come to believe that the ability to say no is very important in our society. We need an instrument that enables as many people as possible to be involved in decision-making processes. And in capitalism, the prerequisite is money. And that's my point, is if we're going to live in this combative, competitive capitalist system, like if this is what everybody thinks is best, which you can debate that till you're blue in the face, but the milieu of our time is that capitalism is what's best, then we need to make sure the laborer has capital in order to be a real participant in this and to not just be exploited by the system due to, our needs to eat and sleep and have a place to live, right? Like we need a way to keep the basic necessities of life from being a hammer with which to bludgeon us. Yeah. So on the whole, going through those three topics, looking back at some of our major topics from previous episodes, how do you think we did, Todd? How would you say we did?
Going by everything else, probably not as great as they hoped.
I'm sorry. I mean, like, how do you think you and I covering these topics, were we accurate? Has things bared out the way we warned? Have we given an accurate predictions, or have we been off base with our analysis?
I couldn't tell you. I haven't really been paying attention. I haven't been paying attention to any of that stuff beyond us talking about it. So.
Okay. Well, I meant based on what I just went over. I'm convinced that we've been right on the money. Trump, the one thing you could say maybe we were off base on is Trump ended the tariffs sooner than people predicted he would. But to me, that's just Trump folding and being every bit the coward that we think he is.
Yeah.
So with that out of the way, we can get to some news of the week. You got a theme song for us?
I do. Hold on just a second here. Get this pulled up. And
now it's time for our weekly news. We're breaking down the key stories shaping our world, from policy shifts to the latest in global affairs. Let's dive in.
yay.
Yeah. I like
You
that.
got to have some
I like
epic
that.
music for the news, right?
Oh, always. So, news of the week. First item up for bid. Donald Trump signed an executive order for American drug prices to be brought in line with comparably developed nations. This is the quote-unquote most favored nations law. Two things to know about this. One, Donald Trump exaggerates speed and certainty of prescription drug price reductions. We get that from PolitiFact. He's trying to act like this will immediately bring drug prices down 30 to 80%. But that's actually going to take some time to work out. And if there's actually going to be sustained price reductions, that's going to require congressional action. So this EO is another example of Trump basically just doing the professional wrestling stunt of ticking a box and saying, hey, I did this. But moreover than that, on Inauguration Day, just 4 months ago to the day, on January 20th, 2025, Trump signed an executive order reversing initiatives aimed at reducing prescription drug costs for Medicare and Medicaid, and also expanding the Affordable Care Act and increasing protections for Medicaid enrollees. So basically, Trump overturned Biden-era executive orders and then put his own back in place a few months later so that he could take credit for it.
I mean,
Again,
didn't he
stunt.
just undo what he did and just call it his?
Exactly. Yeah. It's just a stunt. It's just a stunt.
God.
Now, here's one for our right-minded folks. If anybody on the right side of the political spectrum may be listening, some people think Washington is just this hippy-dippy left socialist hellhole that has rampant crime and nothing good to say about that. Just lets the citizens take over the city. Well, new Washington law signed by the governor directs $100 million in grants toward hiring police and improving public safety. This comes from the Washington State Standard, which is a right-leaning publication. But my first, fine, that's great. It's not my idea of how to bring public safety. But if it is one hand of a two-handed approach, I can compromise. But my first blush reaction to this was, okay, if we're going to spend that much money in hiring police, let's spend at least that much money in social services. And that's exactly what the Black Caucus and the Washington State Legislative Black Caucus said. They literally said word for word, if there's going to be $100 million to beef up the ranks of law enforcement, there should be at least that much to shore up social services and other supportive programs in communities. So I'm glad there's somebody in the legislature saying the same thing that I'm thinking. That makes me happy. But here's the biggest hypocrisy of the whole thing. This is 100% a bill to appease right-minded voters. How many Republican lawmakers do you think, Todd, supported the bill in Washington State's Congress?
No clue, because I don't pay attention to that shit.
There's five.
Oh,
Five Republican lawmakers who supported the bill.
Yeah.
So they'll cry for this stuff. They'll demand this kind of stuff, and then when it happens, they won't support it if it's a Democratic idea. It's just they're just in opposition for opposition's sake.
Yeah. That tracks.
All right. Yeah. In other news, local to Washington, they are increasing the price of a Discover Pass. Now, I've seen people in my politics group, the right-minded politics group that I monitor. I haven't really participated anymore, but I do monitor what's going on there. they're sharing this as the Discover Pass is going up by 50%. This is going to keep anybody from going to the parks. Now, it's true. It is going up 50%. It's going from $30 to $45. And while it's unfortunate to have to pay a fee to use a lot of our parks.
How is that 50%?
Because half of 50% of $30 is $15. And 30 plus $15 is $45.
I mean, if it was going up 50% from 30, wouldn't it be 60?
No, that'd be 100%. That'd be a 100% increase. Because that's 100% of the 30. So $15 is 50% of the 30.
Okay. Yeah. I guess
I don't math. That's why they do it that way, though. That's exactly why they do it that way, because they want people to make that mental mistake. They want people to go 50%. Oh wow, that's huge. And percentage wise, yes, it is, but it's $15. And the reason for it is that the state parks will not be seeing significant new revenue from 2025 to 27 because Washington legislators reduced its funding appropriations and added new costs to the agency. Yeah. We're also losing federal funding from the Trump administration. So about 71% of funding for state parks will be earned from revenue compared to about 65% this year. So they just had to up it. Now I hope that there are ways for people that can't afford it to apply for waivers, but ultimately this is what happens when you live in a capitalist society that requires money to run everything.
I do know that if you are if you're disabled in any way, shape, or form, you can get you can get that pass for free.
Yeah, there you go. And so that's definitely a way. A better way to look at this.
I almost got it, but then I realized I don't really go to any of the state parks to really need it. So
I buy it every time. I buy it every year when I renew my tabs. I always get the Discover Pass. Some years we don't ever use it, but I'd rather support the parks. Yeah. And then I have it if we're ever on a road trip and want to pull off, and it's a Discover Pass park.
I did that one year, like the year before I moved back to Renton. I got the Discovery Pass, figuring I would probably use it because I wasn't sure if I was going to have a place to live. So I figured if nothing else, I could use it to go camping. But because homeless and all. But yeah, so I never used it. That receipt with the pass information on it sat in my glove box for an entire year and never got used.
Yeah, I know how that goes for sure. One year I realized I had never even put my license plate number on it, and it was just in my glove box all year, just like you said. And our last story for the news of the week, and this is one you added, Todd. The Golden Globes have added a Best Podcast category for the 2026 year. So that's kind of cool. The organization has announced a new award category honoring the Best Podcast of the year, broadening its recognition of creative storytelling. So fingers crossed for us, Todd. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, except we're not doing creative storytelling. So it's going to be for like any of those podcasts that are basically audiobooks, is what it sounds like.
Well, and here's the deal: the 25 most popular podcasts will be eligible, with 6 finalists to be named from those 25.
So Joe Rogan and like 5 other people.
Yeah, so we're not in the running, not for this inaugural one.
Yeah, we're not even in the running for any local ones either. So
no, we have to have a couple of listeners before we even get there.
Yeah, more than just the 2 of us.
Yeah, right. I mean, I got a few friends who claim that they listen.
I think the one subscriber we have on Spotify is my friend Shannon. So hi, Shannon.
And I believe my friend Tony listens via Apple Podcasts. So hi, Tony.
Yeah, I think he follows the socials and likes and comments sometimes too.
Yeah. He's one of our P1 listeners.
Nice.
So that's what I got for news of the week, Todd. You want to take us to What's Geek this week?
I do.
Welcome to What's Geek this week. Your go-to for the coolest in pop culture tech and nerdy news. Let's dive in.
All right, so I pulled up a few stories here. The first one I have here is from comicbookmovie.com, and it is about the creator of Riri Williams, also known as Ironheart. And apparently he didn't get paid for this series or whatever. I'll tell you what it says here. It says, when characters or storylines created by comic book writers and artists appear in a Marvel films or series, the original creators typically get compensated with a one-time payment rather than an ongoing royalties. This compensation is generally modest, often cited as being around $5,000, and it usually comes with an invite to the project's red carpet premiere. Sorry, Rob Liefeld. This gesture of goodwill on Marvel's part is as oftentimes the company brings the artists and writers on work for hire agreements, and any other characters, places, and intellectual property created end up being owned by Marvel Comics and not the artists and writers. This payout frequently viewed more symbolic gesture than true compensation, an unspoken nod to the creator's contribution. For instance, let's see here. Where does it get to the point where it's adding fuel to the ongoing discussion? Mike Deodato Jr., the acclaimed artist who co-created Riri Williams, also known as Ironheart, alongside Brian Michael Bendis in 2016's Iron Man Volume 3, Number 7, has revealed that he has not received any compensation for the upcoming Ironheart series. I don't know, man. That's kind of messed up. I mean, although it's not surprising considering didn't like I mean, Rob Liefeld got like snubbed by Marvel Studios, and I think the showrunner for X-Men '97 got shit canned at the end of season 1. So this is kind of messed up.
Yeah, this again is the whole problem with corporate overlords owning things. It's like back in the day, if you worked for IBM and invented something, you didn't own the patent. Yeah, IBM did.
I think this
if you're working for Marvel and you create a character. Yeah. They own the character, you don't.
And I'm going to say this. I think this says more about Marvel than it does Disney, because this is something Marvel's done for fucking ever, for anything we've ever done. Anytime they've done something that is beyond the original medium, which is comic books, with a character, the person who created it. Actually, I don't think it's even just Marvel. It's Marvel and DC did the same fucking thing. It was like 50 years after the fact that the guys who created Superman started getting credit for the character. So at some point, they're going to have to get some credit and acknowledgments. So, all right, so on to some other stories here. I have, so does the live-action Lilo and Stitch have a post-credit scene? Here's your spoiler-free answer. It says here, where is it? Where does it say? Lilo and Stitch was once going to be released on streaming Disney Plus as a Disney Plus original, but Bob Iger returned when he returned as the CEO of Disney. The decision was made for it to become a theater release instead, based on early box office tracking, which suggests the movie will open Memorial Day weekend between 110 million and 130 million. More than Snow White grossed domestically during its entire run. Not surprising, because apparently that movie did not do well. It didn't translate, I guess. And to be honest, I don't think there's only been maybe one or two that have done well as a live action. I think a lot of them have not done well. It says here. It says here, while 2002 Lilo and Stitch spawned various small-screen follow-ups, and all signs point to Disney having a potential new theatrical franchise on its hands, that should come as a welcome news to House of Mouse, particularly as many of the studio's previous live-action adaptations have faced their fair share of challenges. That's being nice. Those movies all sucked. Says, with that in mind, you're probably wondering if Lilo & Stitch sets the stage for potential follow-ups. We're not getting into spoilers yet, but you should know. You should wait through the credits. Should you wait for the credits for anything extra? Yes, Lilo & Stitch has one mid-credits scene, according to reports. Based on what we're hearing, it's well worth waiting for too. So. So that is promising because I really loved the original Lilo and Stitch, and I actually did watch the TV series on Disney Channel, or I think it might have been Disney XD. Either way, I watched it. It was fun.
We've been watching some of those with the kids, and my younger son is obsessed with Stitch, so we are definitely going to see that hopefully at the drive-in as soon as it comes out.
The great thing about the live action Lilo and Stitch is they did get the original creator and voice of Stitch to come back to voice him again, so that's good.
Right on.
Yeah. All right, next story here for the Geek News comes from comicbook.com. Star Wars needs to bring back their What If inspired Legends comics. And I'm only aware of this series because a buddy of mine had the one where it was a What If series, which is kind of like an alternate universe or an Elseworlds in the world of Star Wars, where Anakin Skywalker does get redeemed. He does not die in Jedi, and he becomes a Jedi Knight again. And then he switches his outfit from all black to being all white, showing that he is part of the light side of the Force now. And I actually saw somebody at I think it was Emerald City Comic Con years ago who actually did a full cosplay as that version of Darth Vader. Was really cool seeing it too. It says here on the article, though, for a galaxy so vast and a history so rich, Star Wars universe has always held an irresistible allure for exploring alternate realities. What if Luke Skywalker joined his father on the dark side? Or what if the Rebel Alliance failed to destroy the Death Star? These tantalizing questions, the bread and butter of speculative fiction, were once explored in great detail through Star Wars' infinite line of comics. Released by Dark Horse Comics, these retellings of the original trilogy showed thrilling devastation from the established canon, deviations from established canon, allowing writers and artists to embrace their creativity and reimagine pivotal moments in the classic saga. Infinities provided a sandbox for exploring the boundless potential of what ifs. Honestly, I think, if anything, if they don't bring it back to comics, I would love to see a What If series, an animated series on Disney Plus. It would be great to see those comic books come to life, either as an animated series or even a live action series if they're so inclined. But I don't see them doing a What If series with live action because it would require getting everybody who was involved again, and I don't know if these people have the ability to without it taking another 10 years for it to come out because of scheduling. But yeah, so. But yeah, all these I'm not reading the whole thing because we're kind of limited on time here, but all these articles will be posted on social media if you want to read the whole thing and see what else it says, because I'm skipping over a bunch of shit. Please do. And the final story I have here from the Nerdist.com, and this is for a property that I genuinely don't care about, but I thought it was an interesting story. The Buffy the Vampire Slayer reboot has found its new chosen one. I saw the video on TikTok a couple days ago, and it was really touching. It was a Skype call, not Skype, it was probably Zoom actually, a Zoom call between Sarah Michelle Gellar and a young actress. And she basically says, "Hey, so I was just calling, we're going through all this stuff, and I wanted to ask you, are you ready to be the chosen one? Do you want to go on this journey with me?" And the girl has this look of, "What? You're kidding, right?" And she looks off to the side because apparently I think her dad was off on the side, and she gives this look of, "Oh my God," to her dad. And then, you have to watch the video if you want to see, but I'm not going to reenact the whole thing, but it was cute. I thought it's given me enough curiosity about the new series to at least watch the first episode when it comes out. I actually do like Sarah Michelle Gellar as an actress. I just didn't care for Buffy. The TV series, it was, I don't know, it just wasn't for me. I was not the target demographic, clearly. I enjoyed the original movie, but that was it.
Which was totally different.
It's completely different.
I loved that movie as a kid, but it's a well-regarded TV series, but I
know a lot of people who they said that there are characters in that series that help them realize things about themselves. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I get that is a thing. And I just, the overall, the way the stories were being told was very melodramatic and very teen angsty. And at that point in my life, I had already watched all my teen angsty type shows, and I was over it by the time it became popular. I was onto other things. And I tried rewatching it recently because you can watch it on, I think it's Tubi. Tubi has it, either that or it's on Amazon. It's on a free streaming either way. So yeah, I'll give it a shot when it comes out. I think it's I can't remember if it's coming out on I think it might be on Hulu, but I'm not entirely sure. So let's I didn't mean to click that. What's that? Okay. I would imagine it's going to be on Hulu because the original was, I think, on Fox. But yeah, I think another thing is because it's a Joss Whedon product, that a lot of people are just like, okay, I'm really done with Joss Whedon because of all of the controversy with him. So yeah,
is he involved in the reboot?
I don't know if he is. I haven't really looked into it that much. I just saw this video and thought it was
probably not going to be, but I don't know if he's been rehabilitated or not.
I seriously doubt it. I'm trying to see if it says here on the article where it's going to be released. Either way, I guess I'll keep an eye out to see anything updates for the new series. I know at least a handful of people that are probably going to be into watching it because they like the original. But I think the one thing that really made me dislike the series was the musical episode. It was just so spontaneous. It was not something you would expect from that kind of show, But and it also didn't help that as much as she is a great actor, she's not a singer. Sarah Michelle Gellar. No.
Yeah, it's always a risk when a non-musical show goes for a musical episode. Sometimes they make for some of the best, most memorable episodes of a series. But if it's not what you're tuning into that show for, it can really hit you the wrong way.
I legitimately there was an episode of The Flash that was a musical, and I kept skipping ahead to see if the next scene was not going to have people singing, and the whole thing was singing. It wasn't just they would be walking down the hallway and then he would spontaneously, start singing as he's running in circles around everybody. The whole thing was a musical. So I ended up skipping the entire episode because I was like, still singing. No, still singing. Still singing. Still singing. And I skipped through the whole thing in 10 minutes. So, all right. So now on to the weird, there's some weird shit. Let me get that played out here.
Welcome to That's Some Weird Shit, where we dig up the craziest, quirkiest stories that make you go, what the heck just happened? Buckle up, it's about to get weird.
Okay. So, I'm going to switch these around a little bit. The first story I wanted to talk about, not as much as weird as it is, it's very on brand, but I thought it was strange in that it was funny. Funny, haha, and not funny, weird. Apparently, Trump customers or fans spent $640 on a watch. It's supposed to be a really fancy looking watch. It's if you look on but if you notice on the face, it's missing something. Do you see what it's missing?
It doesn't have a T, so it just says rump.
Yeah. So they bought what looks like a cheap knockoff of a Rolex, with rose gold.
What else would you expect from the Donald?
I mean, exactly. And what's even funnier is, beyond it being rose gold colored and gold accents, it has his autograph on it, and it has some like fireworks, and then it says rump at the top. I don't know if this is the only person that had this happen, or if other people have also had it happen, but I think it's hilarious. I think it's well deserved. I think if you spent that much money on a watch from a grifter, you got what you paid for. So,
100%.
Yeah. So this is what
we should be taking the T's off of any.
I mean, for the longest time, since he became president the first time around, I would actually capitalize the R in his name. Hello?
You were cutting out there for a minute.
Yeah, I heard the echo thing where it was like making the sonar sound. But yeah, I was just saying that it's funny. All right, so let's go on to the next story. It's hilarious. The next story is this is basically a Florida man story, because this comes from WFTV9 in Florida. This is around 2:20 a.m. Deputy Thomas Jenkins from Brevard County Sheriff's Office spotted a Chevrolet Equinox speeding at 118 miles per hour, significantly above the speed limit. The driver, identified as Juan Espinoza, was signaled to pull over into the center median. Upon approaching the vehicle, Deputy Jenkinson detected an odor of alcohol emanating from the car. Further investigation revealed Espinosa's wife in the front passenger seat and their two children, ages 1 and 8, in the back seat. Suspecting impairment, the deputies requested Espinosa to perform a field sobriety test and provide a breath sample to determine his blood alcohol level. Espinosa refused to follow the request. He was later arrested and taken to nearby detention center, facing charges of driving under the influence and child neglect with significant bodily harm. God, I mean, it just in the photo of the guy, he looks like a combination of Beavis and Butthead.
He does, and he behaves even dumber. Yeah. Like, that's insane.
I mean, 118. I mean, of course it's Florida. Where else would that kind of thing happen? So, these stories aren't necessarily as weird as previous ones. I haven't been getting any really good ones. So, and then we have this one's actually kind of funny, also, but also kind of like. You would think they would know better, but maybe they don't. Turkish town involuntary gets high after police burn over 20 tons of confiscated weed.
What a great time to be on vacation there.
Right? I mean, if you know that they're going to be burning piles of weed, that's when you go to that town in Turkey. It says on April 18th.
Turkish weed, too.
Yeah,
it's
right?
Be the good stuff.
On April 18th, Turkish authorities conducted an operation to burn over 20 tons of confiscated cannabis in lice, which caused...
That's why they're burning in the pattern that just says lice. I was wondering, why does it say lice?
Yeah.
I don't want lice in my weed.
Which caused the air in the settlement to become thick with weed smoke for at least 5 days. People couldn't leave their windows open and avoided going out in fear of becoming intoxicated and experiencing symptoms of like dizziness, nausea, hallucinations. The destroyed cannabis, valued at 10 billion with a B, Turkish lira, weighed 20 tons, 766 kilos, 679 grams, and had been seized from all over Diyarbakir, Providence during 2023 and 2024.
Yeah, I do not speak Turkish. That's a difficult word. Diyarbakir.
Yeah, so I completely butchered that word. I'm positive of it because it's probably one of those things that like it does not sound like it's spelled.
Right. Yeah.
But all right.
No, the pronouncer is David. It's David.
I'm sorry, Dave. But yeah, I saw that. I was like, that can't be fucking real. The average person knows if you burn weed, you can get high off of that. So, like, it's... Did it... I don't know.
Well, what else are they going to do with it? They can't. They're not allowed to sell it.
Burn it. I mean, I'm not burn it, but bury it. Like,
yeah.
You know, put it in your, you know, wherever you put other toxic elements that you can't burn. All right. Let's, a couple more stories to go here. I have, from unexplainedmysteries.com.
We're staying in Turkey for this one.
Yes. This is actually from the location of the official spot for Noah's Ark. Scans reveal a void and structures at the site underground. So this is what it says here. The site, which has been long rumored to be the final resting place of the biblical vessel, is situated approximately 3 kilometers north of the Iranian border and around 6,500 feet above sea level. Researchers from all over the world have investigated the site over the years, but the question of whether it really is the final resting place of Noah's Ark or simply a natural formation remains up in the air. Now, a new series of scans have conducted on the site by Andrew Jones of Noah's Ark Scans and his colleagues has revealed that it is perhaps the most tantalizing evidence yet that something might be there. Using ground penetrating radar, Jones believes he has discovered signs of a tunnel-like void running through the center of the formation, as well as additional angular structures inside of it. The scans also report that show 3 distinct layers, matching biblical descriptions of the Ark's 3 decks. The team claims that this represents evidence of interior corridors and rooms. We're not expecting something that's fully preserved, Jones told the Christian Broadcasting Network, or CBN. What's left is the chemical imprint, pieces of wood, and the ground, the shape of a hull. I mean...
So I kind of put this in the same category as the recent announcing of scans that found structures beneath the Great Pyramid in Giza. They're just finding rock formations and naturally forming tunnels, and those are technically structures.
Yeah, caverns.
Yeah, caverns and tunnels, and those are technically structures, but there's nothing that suggests they're actually man-made in any way. Yeah. Just like underneath the Great Pyramid, these are like, are we supposed to believe that, like a dinosaur fossil, Noah's Ark was preserved under these layers of hard rock just a few thousand years later, as opposed to the millions of years later that we find dinosaur bones?
Right.
Like,
yeah. I mean, anytime you look at a conspiracy theories type website, there's going to be a lot of things like that where they're like, see, proof that the Bible is real. You know, no, that's not how science works. It's okay. So, all right. Moving on to the final story I have here, which I initially saw it as a reel on Instagram. I was like, oh, okay, sure. A small town in France succeeded its 3rd Guinness World Record attempt by hosting a gathering of 3,076 people dressed as Smurfs.
3rd time's the charm.
Yeah. The town of, I'm not going to even pronounce this correctly. I'm just going to say it how it looks. Landerneau in France's Brittany region.
Nailed that one.
Okay, because, it's Brittany. It's Brittany, bitch. So, had attempted the world record for the most people dressed as Smurfs twice before, but fell short of the record of 2,762 people, which was set by Germany in 2019.
So France finally got one back on the Germans.
Right?
Yeah, take that for World War II.
Again, this is something you're going to have to see for yourself, folks. So check out the description on the podcast for the links to these stories, and you can see the video for yourself. Just so many people wearing white pants, a blue shirt. I'm hoping is a blue shirt, because I haven't clicked on the video. Because, mean, there's probably at least one person who just painted their body blue and wear white pants and a white hat. There's actually one person, or there's a few people I'm seeing now, but initially I'm only seeing one person dressed as Papa Smurf wearing the red slacks and the red hat. But I think it's I mean, if you're gonna go for a world record, you gotta go big and you gotta go bizarre and to get people to notice, you know?
Absolutely.
All right. Well,
All
that is it for the palate cleanser of the episode. This has been like the most rushed episode I've ever done.
Yeah, we did it. We got it done. We got through the whole thing. We only had an hour this week instead of the usual hour and a half. And this was a cursed episode that almost was never going to come out.
Yeah.
Just because we had to take a break last week because of my plans. And then my Sunday fell apart. My Monday fell apart. And then right when we were about to start recording this episode today, my computer fell apart. So it was just cursed. And we still did it. We got it done.
Yeah. And you know what? Yesterday, all day, I was trying to getting myself set up because I wanted to make sure everything was working. My computer kept turning off, and like it would run for 30 minutes and it would turn off. It wouldn't give an error message or anything. It just out, and then I would get it back on, and then it wouldn't connect to the internet. So
please give this stream a like. Please follow us. We're pulling out all the stops to make these episodes happen.
Definitely give the video and
with our schedule or not.
Whatever platform you're consuming this episode with, whether it be YouTube or iTunes or whatever it's called now, or whatever audio platform, if it has an option for like an upvote or a star rating, go ahead and give us an upvote. If you're not following, please follow.
Review.
Give us a review saying these guys work hard for this podcast, and they deserve to be recognized.
and please interact with us on the socials. We're there on Blue Sky. We're there on Facebook. We're there on YouTube. Leave us a comment on the live stream if you see it. And then the reason we're so rushed today is because I actually have another podcast to record right after this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a guest on the It's Not About You podcast with Jamal and Marianne, which Todd used to be a part of.
I was one of the core members of that podcast for about two and a half years.
Co-creator, really, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was really their show. I was kind of like the Andy Richter to their Conan, but
gotcha.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go on there and talk all about this show and try and get us some listeners. So
I mean,
we'll see if we can piggyback on their success at all.
To be fair, the vast majority of their subscribers, and Jamal will probably say bullshit, but it's true. When I set up that podcast, I set up when you move your podcast from one host to another, you can say, hey, I'm moving my podcast over here. And I took my original podcast, which I did for at that point 8 years, and I forwarded it to the Not About You podcast. So all of the people that were subscribed on my original show got pulled over to their show. And when
you were there, you brought them the fan base.
I did. And they also brought their own fan base, which added to it. But the initial people watching for that first year or so was all because they were originally following my original podcast, the 206 Geek.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say hi for you when I jump on, and we'll talk more about it next week.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.